I've got the first pumpkin of the year in the oven. My kids are really rooting for some pumpkin pie. I was thinking of going a different route, but I may just appease them because, you know, why not? It's been in there for about 40 minutes and I'm gonna set a timer on my phone for a little bit longer because I'm about to go outside. I love the way these elephant ears look after the rain with the water droplets on them. So pretty. I'm talking to the friends who live inside my camera.
Oh, I thought the turkeys were gobbling. I was like, they're making a weird noise.
No, it was me. Will came up and was like, were you just talking? Yeah, that's what I do. This vlog is going to deal with butchering. Just as a preface here on the front end, I'm not going to show the act of butchering in itself as far as like dispatching the birds, because that does lead to demonetization. There was a time on my channel years ago where I never covered anything to do with butchering, and the reason for that change is that our audience has changed. Though there may still be people here who are vegan essentially and don't really want anything to do with butchering, we have way more people now who are trying to learn this stuff, and I think it's important, and I want to tell you why. We've got everything set up out here. We were waiting for the scalder to get hot, which it now is, as you can see. Well, maybe you can see the steam coming out of that. It's heated on propane. Everything's ready. Wes just ran to the store, or the ice kiosk. Do y'all have those kiosks where you are, where you go and it's like, I don't know, a 20-pound bag of ice for a couple of bucks? He went to get a bunch of ice because we're gonna let the birds rest on ice for a couple of days before we put them in the freezer. Raising meat, taking care of animals, and then killing them to eat is, I would say, probably one of the more controversial things that come with a homesteading life. We definitely get some hate for that. Surprisingly, I used to think when we first started that hate was going to be coming from people who don't eat meat. In fact, that's actually not where it comes from. Most people who are either vegan or vegetarian very highly honor the fact that we treat our animals with so much respect, and that instead of choosing to eat meat that was grown in deplorable conditions, we choose to take responsibility for the fact that we eat meat, so that no animal has to live a miserable life in order for us to be able to eat the way that we want to. Most people who don't eat meat actually really highly value that. They see that. Actually, the crap we get the most is from people who do eat meat, and they say, well, I can never look an animal in the eye and then kill it to eat it. And I would encourage you, if that is how you feel, to maybe think about it. I'm not here to condemn anybody at all. These are our convictions that we live by, and I mean, I think that's absolutely what you should live by. If you're trying to live by somebody else's convictions, it's not going to take you very far. And also, if you are trying to get someone else to live by your convictions, ultimately what will happen is you will fall off of them. Like, if you can't even hold yourself to your convictions and live by them wholeheartedly, how in the world do you expect anybody else to follow you into that? Learning about the state of the American meat industry, I don't know how it is everywhere else. Largely, the demand for fast, cheap, and easy food has created a very unsustainable way of producing meat specifically. It's really everything. All food is being produced in a way that's not sustainable. Whenever you look at monocropping and all of that. I used to be vegan. I was vegetarian for longer than I was vegan, but I have spent significant parts of my life choosing not to eat animal products because I was not able to procure them in a way that I felt okay about. And now it is hard. There's a cost. Something has to die for you to live. Like that is, to me, an incredible example of the gospel in real life. But also, it's just true. Even if you are eating a vegan diet, obviously plants are dying, but I mean, you're not eating anything that's soy or corn or grain or anything that's commonly grown in monocropping without something dying. Garden for one season and pull bugs off of your plants. Something has to die, even for the production of vegetables, especially when you get into the way that agriculture does things now. I mean, like, the countless numbers of animals that die in the production of monocropping there's no way to quantify that. So something has to die for us to live. And for us, Butchering Day is not a happy day. Like, I mean, we make the most of it. We do it with community. But, like, nobody loves to kill something. I'm sure that there are people out there who have a weird thing. That's not what I'm talking about. We don't love to kill things. Most normal people do not love to kill things. I guess just to say any normal people do not love to kill things. This is the burden of the reality that something has to die for us to live. And when people say, how in the world do you take care of an animal and then kill it? Anytime, like I showed our ducklings the other day, and I had people comment and say, how in the world can you act like that animal is so cute when you know you only got it to kill it? And I'm like, it is cute. Like, it is cute. It's a cute animal, the little calf, Amos, he's cute. His purpose here on this farm is that ultimately he's going to be meat. It doesn't mean he doesn't deserve my honor. It doesn't mean he doesn't deserve my respect. In fact, isn't it better to look it in the eye and give it a life that's worth living? If the whole reason that it's alive is for you to sustain your body and your family, isn't it better to like face that head on rather than just ignore it and go buy meat that doesn't have a face at the grocery store, that's wrapped up, that lived in misery? Like, for me, this is my conviction, and I haven't always shown it a lot. That's something that I'm changing in how I'm doing things. Some people are going to get offended whenever you live by your convictions. It's just life. Ultimately, offense is also a choice, so I'm just going to show it, and I'm going to know that when a person authentically lives their life and shares what they're doing and the convictions they're following, it helps other people. Maya's over here organizing the freezers. I shared last week how we had a freezer go out, of course, right upon like the big butchering season. So when that happened, we had to throw a bunch of stuff all together in the other freezers, and now we're trying to resort them so we can have a place to put these birds. Hey, baby.
What's up? How's it going?
So, you know, it's going. I was coming out to give a peek at the freezer room. Here it is. These are freezers.
These are the freezers.
Also, check this out. Here's my pumpkin harvest so far for this year. Pretty good, huh? Also, funny comment. This cracked me up. I just love sharing the process with you guys. Sometimes the view from here is just so funny. I did a quick pop in the pantry building the other day, and I guess people saw my canned goods, and they said, oh, you actually do all this stuff. And I'm like, I need a second to think about how to even respond. What do you got there?
This is the last of my old Marine Corps bag.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah, when I was a skinnier guy. It's tiny.
Sowards.
Saw something else. Yeah.
Ah.
Holy cow.
Look at that little waist. Dress blues.
Combat engineer course. You know, essential stuff like how to make homemade explosives.
Nice.
Thought, you know, maybe I'll need it someday.
That's cool.
I've used these never since I've had them, so I think just in case.
I've been thinking a lot lately about my approach to creating content. And like I mentioned recently how this time of year makes me super introspective. They're talking because I'm talking. But I always want to be in a place that I am pushing myself to like move forward, to grow, to think deeper, and to ultimately just not stay stagnant in my life. There has been a lot that's gone on over the last couple years. I mean, you guys have watched our lives change drastically if you've been here from the beginning. And many of you who have been here from the beginning can attest to that. And many people are hugely supportive. We have truly, I've said this over and over, and I really genuinely mean it. We have the best audience on the internet. I really think that. When we like do shout outs for other people and our viewers go to them, they tell us, they're like, the people who follow you are so nice, so encouraging, so uplifting, so sweet. And I'm like, you're right, they really are. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that you attract what you are, and I believe in treating people kindly. Like that is the very fabric of who I am as a person, is that I believe people are worthy of kindness and love, no matter if you disagree with them, no matter if you see the world the same, no matter, even if they're unloving, even if they're dishonorable, I'm still going to treat people with love and honor. Not because who they are, but because who I am. That is how I want to approach the world. And even with the kindest audience on the internet, you know, something happened to me as my audience grew and this platform grew, and that's it. I got a little scared, and I can pinpoint exactly when it was. It was through 2020, with COVID, and with, honestly, there was a lot of the political stuff that was going on during that time, and, you know, social activism and all of the different things that really hit a crescendo during 2020. Probably because it was an election year, and I mean, that's kind of what happens typically during election years. There's just a ton of tumultuous discord in people. In the height of that, being on a public platform, even though I was really like praying a lot and being like, how do I handle this with kindness? How do I handle people well? How do I handle the fact that people are so polarized on opinions whenever I really genuinely feel compassion and love towards all people? And I was waking up every day to just literally every single day hateful and accusatory messages of people telling me that I was doing it badly. And always in such a way that it was very, like, honestly manipulative language of like, I thought you were better than this and I'm so disappointed in you. And ultimately my response to that was to maybe like have less of an opinion. And ultimately, in having less of an opinion, I don't know that I've really fully showed up as myself. I mean, I don't know that I really saw that. It wasn't like a conscious choice. But now it's interesting because there have been some times lately that I've shared some different things that I have strong opinions about. Like, I've shared about how corrupt I feel like the food system is. I've shared about, you know, just different things. Whenever my soil got poisoned from the crap that gets sprayed on the earth, like, I've shared that I have like deeply emotional feelings about things. But I don't always go there, one, because I honestly don't always think that way. A lot of times I'm very consumed with what's in front of me. There's a lot of work in my life, and being riled up emotionally over something that I cannot directly affect doesn't serve me well. So most of the time I'm doing what I can to indirectly affect the issues that greatly, you know, deeply move me and bother me, which is growing my own food, which is taking care of my family and being connected and building relationship and building community. Like, that's ultimately what I'm trying to do. And so I'm not always like fiery, riled up, ready to storm the gates of hell with a squirt pistol. Like, a lot of times I'm just baking bread because that is actually the next step toward changing the broken food system that so frustrates me. But I think there have been times that I've maybe shied away from like, hey, this is who we are. And I sort of had started making the decision to just be a little more fully transparent, just be a little more embracing of the glass house. And then things kind of started to happen accidentally, like whenever I showed the pantry tour and somebody caught sight of Jeremiah's guns. He's a Marine, like he is a former Marine, but nobody's ever a former Marine. Yeah, he loves guns. There it is. He loves guns. We don't talk about that because people get upset. They get so upset that it's like they think you want to shoot them. Like, he doesn't. He's actually incredibly safe with guns because people who are trained in them are. I have no interest in guns, but we have them. And so, like, that's something that I don't put out there because people get upset. Why is that? And ultimately, I've noticed that the more that I shy away from sharing things honestly, it ultimately cheapens what I do share because people know what's real. And let me encourage you guys in this. Demand authenticity in relationships. Authentic and vulnerable and transparent and real is always better than relatable. I think that we have been like, oh, we want relatable so much that we demand people to be like this, be like us. And maybe I'm not like you. Like, that's okay with me. Like, I do not need you to be like me in order for me to think that you're valuable, because I want to love you. I don't want to just love me. And if you are going around your life demanding everybody be like you, which I get it, like, it's nice to find people you can relate with. That's okay to value that. But I don't think that it's okay to demand it. We should demand honesty. We should demand transparency. Like, if you want the real honest thing of like, here we are, then you also can't choose to get offended whenever something is not something you agree with. Like, maybe we should challenge ourselves when we feel offended by somebody who we have seen the fruit of their lives, and we have seen that they are good people, and we have seen that their hearts are good. Instead of getting upset when we see something that makes us feel like, oh, that's bad or that's not good, we should go, wait a second, maybe something in my perception is off. Maybe if this good person doesn't think that's bad, maybe I should look at that. Does that make sense? Ultimately, I think unintentionally, I think that whenever I hear people say, oh, you actually do this life, and I'm like, oh, my pumpkins may be done. I think unintentionally by, you know, I would be filming and in the past, and it would be something that I knew was going to get negative responses. And I'd be like, I just want to show that. You know, like, for instance, I don't make a lot of canning content because I break some of the rules. That's true. I don't want to tell people to break the rules in canning. I actually encourage you to know the rules. You should always know what the rules are before you choose to break them. Oh, look at that. Yeah, it's nice and soft now. But this week I was on Instagram and I was looking Ruth Ann Zimmerman, I follow her on Instagram. She's like my homestead hero. She's amazing. And she was talking about, you know, she grew up learning to can, and her family like totally lived off the land and grew their own food. And she said, well, I know that like basically this is recommended by guidelines, but I do it this way because it's how I was taught, and I actually think that it's better. And you know what? I trust her. I trust her judgment on that. Like, I trust her experience on that. And I might not always do it the way that she's saying, but she has the right to make that decision. And I honor the fact that she's like, honestly, this is how I do it. It's hard when you're on a platform because people will tell you over and over and over and over. It doesn't matter what your experience is. It doesn't matter what led you to that conclusion. They'll say you're wrong. You shouldn't do it that way. I have a tendency, because I don't like confrontation and because I don't like waking up to messages over and over that are full of accusation, to just say, I just won't show it. And I don't think that's the best way of doing things, and I'm sorry. I genuinely, I'm not saying this so that you guys can be like, oh, Jess, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm really sorry. Like, I have realized it's been about the last month and a half of really like looking at this and introspecting and praying and seeing it. I've been like, oh my gosh, I've put curtains up in my glass house because I was afraid. I was afraid of being accused. I was afraid of misleading somebody. I was afraid of somebody not learning the rules and then following me, and then somebody, you know, like getting sick and then blaming it. You know, like I was afraid. I mean, it just really comes down to fear. Isn't that always why we hide? Oh, the ice is back. Now I've done talked. This video is probably at least 20 minutes long. I may break it up and do a separate video. I think the response whenever people go, oh, you actually do this, partially it's kind of like this would be a really elaborate farce to have all these cows and all of this garden and not actually be living this life, you know. And people think things that are silly, like, and I can't control that, but in part it's just being busy, and there's only one person who picks up the camera most of the time, and therefore a lot of things happen without getting recorded. And sometimes I don't feel like recording. Sometimes I want to blast music and not talk and just work. But I do think that a lot of what people may have felt is that you know, probably some of that self-protection, because being self-protective, it always leads to disconnection. You can't have honest and vulnerable connection without full transparency. Now, I don't feel like I cannot look at anything that I know of that I've ever like turned the camera on and lied. Like, I've never come dishonestly, but I don't think that in a lot of ways I've come 100%. And maybe that was the season. I do think there was a season that I really did feel led, that my platform was just to teach people. It was not for my own opinions. But I think maybe that season has changed, and I think maybe that sharing earnest opinions is important, especially when people do trust your experience and whenever people do trust the fruit of your life. And so that's my commitment. I'll show you that we butcher animals and that we have guns and we have opinions. And if it upsets people, well, that's really, I can't control other people. So this video is long, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I feel like it's an important message, and I'll get some vlogging done, what I can, while I'm elbow deep in eviscerating turkeys. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today, truly, and all the days that you do. I bless you. Until next time.